Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours, with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and today I'm driving perhaps the least furious vehicle I've ever set foot in. This is a 2004 Toyota Yaris Verso, which is basically Toyota speak for a very, very estate version of a Yaris. Well, I say it's an estate version. It's kind of the similar car built on the same platform, but not quite. They've made quite a lot of changes to this thing to Versoify it. One of those things was adding the powerful 1.3 VVTi engine, which is currently struggling to hit 38 miles an hour up this hill. We may have figured out why this is a favourite with old ladies. Okay, right, so the Toyota Yaris Verso. It's a quirky thing that was built from 1999, on sale in the UK from January 2000 until 2005. And if you like this kind of in-depth review of interesting, unusual, different cars, then please do hit subscribe. It only takes a second, and believe it or not, it does make a big difference to the channel being noticed by YouTube's algorithm. So if you can do that, I'll be forever grateful. Thank you. Now, it was built on Toyota's NBC platform, which is the same platform the regular Yaris was built on, as well as the Japanese market Vitz and Echo. But that's also where we get my absolute favourite thing about this car. In Japan, it wasn't called a Yaris Verso because, frankly, that's boring. It was called, get this, a Toyota Fun Cargo. And I would buy any car just for that name, frankly. That's brilliant. Yes. Should we go shopping? Yes, let's take the Toyota Fun Cargo, and suddenly it's a party on wheels! Now, Fun Cargo might be overstating it a little bit. Toyota did say they designed it with fun and enjoyable driving in mind, and so it has got, well, a pretty good suspension setup. And the interior of the car is monstrously practical. It is all the headroom you could ever want. A 19-foot giant could sit in here. Hightower from Police Academy would have no trouble. That gag of tearing out the front seat wouldn't wash in this car. It's got vast amounts of luggage space. I'll pull over and show you all of this in a moment. But over 2,000 litres of luggage space in the back with the seats folded down, and 230 litres of, well, little cubbyhole space. There are cubbyholes everywhere you look. It's absolutely mad how much space there is to fit things in this car. It's beyond practical. There's cubbyholes in the cubbyholes. But there is one elephant in the room in this otherwise incredibly versatile and apparently fun to drive car. And that's kind of, well, on the outside. So let's pull over and take a quick look. So, it has, well, reliable Toyota underpinnings, a fantastically clever, practical interior. The problem is, when you step out of it, and I've done the thing you should never do is step out of it, is then you can turn around and look at it. Let's be charitable and call it quirky, because, well, it's not normal, is it? It's a bit on the weird side, frankly. But this is because it is 100% form-following function. It was designed to have a huge interior, be massively practical. The idea from Toyota was that as a young couple become a young family, they get their first child, their first dog, their first home, they suddenly need this big practical car, but their budget hasn't changed, so they still need to be spending the same amount on the little small car they had before, but now they need a big car. The Yaris Verso steps in. So in terms of practicality and functional ideas, it's absolutely brilliant. It's just a bit weird looking. And the concept of this was revealed at the Toyota Motor Show in 1997, and the car itself was launched in Japan in 1999. And Toyota press releases back in 99 did say it was designed to appeal to European tastes. Either they are trolling us very hard indeed, or they think genuinely that Europeans drink bin juice. I have described this thing as the ugliest car ever sold in the UK. Someone said, what about the Fiat Multipla? And I said, no, I think the Multipla's got a bit more about it. This is just lots of different angles. It kind of starts off being a Yaris at the front, a little 3 or 5 door hatch. Although it is a saloon in some markets, I should mention that. Carries on, but then it just gets taller and taller. It's 1.6 metres wide and 1.6 metres tall. But then it keeps on going as well at this big straight van-like thing. So it's a huge, weird back end, like a big blocky thing. Enormous back door. So really, really super practical, which is fantastic in terms of getting things in and out. Because this opens almost 90 degrees and it's square, so you can stick a wardrobe in there if you want to. it just looks really odd. And of course you've got these strange big curves going on just here, so lots of dead metal space here instead of glass, and then it wraps around into a very square top corner, and this back end is also a little bit weird. So up top, of course, you have got roof bars, so you can stick your family stuff in, roof boxes, bikes, all the kind of family things that you're going to need. But then you've got this enormous back end. The entire back end of the car virtually opens up to become a vast cavern of car. There's just so much space. It's a ridiculous amount of space. They did in fact say that at the time of launch, it was the most capacious small car on the market in the world. Let's take a look in the back of this thing and then work through the front of the car. So let's start with the door itself, which has got this big curious curve. The whole thing bows out, increasing the capacity, meaning you can put longer things through there, which is great. You've got a door handle in the back so you can pull it shut from the inside, and you have a door handle to open it and unlock. So there you can actually use the rear space as space. It's no surprise these things were used extensively as tiny camper vans, and also for wheelchair users who wanted to put their chair in the back, because so much access. Also in the back of this door we've got what looks like it's a nice piece of padded leather. In fact, it's just molded plastic with a perforated leather, like a Ford Scorpio Granada seat. It's not, it's just hard plastic. Two enormous cubby holes with interesting little 1990s stipple pattern on there. Stepping inside the boot, because obviously there's more to a car than merely the door, we've got a grab handle so you can actually climb in if you're climbing in. We've got a load space cover to hide your luggage and things, but that's no ordinary load space cover, although it does have strings to hook it up. I don't know where to actually, to somewhere. We've got these bars which say, notice, bar D support, keep the maximum loaded 30 kilograms. So we've got a 30 kilo shelf back here in the back, so you can do practical stuff, changing babies, making sandwiches, doing all kinds of outdoor activity, gutting fish. I don't know what you're doing in the countryside. That's your own business. Like that guy doing the shooting over there. Not worried. Still not worried, second shot. But it's a low floor and a very high ceiling. So if you want to do mountain biking, that kind of stuff, seats down, bike in, job done. But it doesn't end there. We've got a hanging hook just up there. We've got lash down hooks on the floor. We've got a 12-volt cigarette lighter socket down there. We've got speakers on both sides. We've got big quarter lights so you can see out if you're back here. And also push this little button down here and the rear courtesy light becomes an actual torch, apparently. Yeah, it's got charging things. I think the battery may have gone after this many years. But there you go. That's super practical. It's a torch that you can punch people with. Who doesn't need that? So climbing into the front of this thing, and do notice how wide this B-pillow becomes down here. Let's take a look at the interior. So first of all, very, very tall door indeed. A little bit of fabric up here to break up the monotony of the endless black plastic, which is literally everywhere. Electric front window switches, lock out for the passenger one if you don't like them. And of course, central locking. Curiously narrow grab handle just here, and quite a slim door pocket. Considering how much other storage is in this car, that's a tiny, tiny door pocket. We do have a little bit of storage for pens and things down here beside the chair, and we've got a quick release seat back adjuster. Seats are the same curious little pattern of little blue flowers on a dark background. Everything quite dark in this car. Stepping inside, and you'll notice there's no dashboard. Well, there is a dashboard, there's a big tea-shelf. Jumbo driver's tea-shelf, so you can step inside the car and be instantly accessing your tea paraphernalia. That is because it's got a centrally mounted binnacle down here. So presumably, the left-hand drive cars, they do turn this thing around. I'm thinking it works like a periscope with a horizontally mounted LCD with an angled mirror back there somewhere, or some kind of prism or something, because the way it moves when you look around is quite disconcerting. A big quirk. I was going to say this must make it cheaper to manufacture the dashboard because you have the same moulding, but in fact it doesn't work that way because it's completely different. We've got the airbag up top here and we've got this T-shelf moulding here. So I thought maybe you could just change this central moulding and angle it towards the other side if it's a left-hand drive car, but no, it doesn't work that way. How curious. What else have we got in here? We've got a nice leather steering wheel, which actually does feel really grippy and quite sporty, in fact, considering it is the least grippy and sporty car in the world. We've got a lot of buttons and things, which is quite advanced for 1999. And we've got a couple of buttons down here for our headlamp height and our mirrors. But everything else is very, very plain in front of the driver. And it feels like the steering wheel is actually very, very low with a very high scuttle. It's a slightly unusual seating position to be in. You're sitting with your legs very upright like you're an SUV, but you're sitting very low like you're in a sports car. It's kind of a weird situation to find yourself in. Over in the centre, we've got a couple of little upright vents around this unique radio, which is a sort of a roundy singled-in head unit in a 1.5 aperture, so quite an unusual thing. It's a little bit awkward to replace without a special adapter plate. Got air conditioning on here, very simple HVAC controls. Curiously, our buttons for the radio are down here next to the CD player, which is mounted below everything else, so it's a weird split. A little cubby hole just big enough for a Mars bar, which is handy. Little ashtray and a 12-volt socket down there. We've also got cubby holes down here, either side of the main binnacle, which is really useful for just shoving things. And we've got an under tray, a sub-T shelf down here below the steering wheel. So gubbins everywhere. And to the left, we've actually got 2 glove boxes, a little tiny glove box up top and a larger one big enough for your book bag on the left. So loads and loads of storage. In fact, another claim for this car, the most internal cubby hole storage of any vehicle on the market, 230 litres I believe. A pair of cup holders, which is quite impressive for a car from 25 years ago. The cup holders were still not really very much a thing in European car design back then. Americans would be looking at going, what's the big deal? Europeans would be going, wow, that'd be exciting. Automatic gearbox, we'll talk about that in a second. Yet more storage down here for pens, yet another cup holder, manual handbrake, which is fabulous. Looking up above, we've got yet more storage, like map holders, book areas for storage up here, like in a van basically. And we've got a storage area for glasses. It's lined with soft stuff. So much stuff. Oh, here we've got measurements as well. So we've got the height of the car, 1715 with roof rails. I'm not sure what the 2.04 is because the car is 3.8 metres long and 1.6 wide. I can't show you the back of the car before we've done a horn test. Oh, that's a versatile parp. Now stepping around the back, we've got these, again, enormous doors with more of this little blue and grey fabric and more of these little stippling patterns which we find everywhere. Only wind-up windows here in the back though, none of your electric stuff, not that posh, but very, very flat floor. People get excited about the flat floors in electric cars. Toyota Verso was doing it in 1999. This also has incredibly versatile rear seats. Versatile seats, because not only can you flip the seats forward to have a completely flat load area just here, lots of storage space that way, the easy way. Also the centre armrest folds down, you've got a little storage area just there, 2 more cup holders, but also if you can rummage around and find the little handle under the seat, where is it? They do in fact fold all the way forward, so you've turned your little estate car into a big van. And if you want to lift out those back seats, lift up the floorboards, oof, and there is yet more storage. It goes right underneath the front seats. It's a cavern. You could fit you could put a carry-on bag in there almost. So much space in this car. That's ridiculous. Also means if you've got very tall passengers in the back, you can take the floor out and you've got a lower floor, so they've got loads more legroom. In fact, I believe it is 2,160 litres of space with the seats folded down, which is vast. And the other thing to mention is just how much headroom there is. It's like being in the open air. I've been in convertibles with the roof down with less headroom than this. It's ridiculous how good it is. Absolutely amazing. 3 full seat belts in the back as well. So much legroom. Right, let's get back on the road and enjoy it some more. I say enjoy. So we're back on the inside again, which is definitely the better place to be looking at the car from. In the 1.3 VVTi T-Sport. Now there were 3 engine choices with this car. There was the 1.4 litre diesel making 74 horsepower. There was a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol making 103 horsepower, and there was this, the 1.3 VVTi making 84 horsepower and 124 newton meters of torque. There were 2 gearbox options as well, the 5-speed manual and this, the 4-speed auto. With the manual 0 to 60, 12.1, with the auto 13.8 seconds, so a long way from rapid, and top speed 102 in the manual, 96 with the auto. Now suspension, we've got McPherson struts at the front and we have got torsion beam at the rear, so it does have a relatively good, well, basic setup as you'd find in an awful lot of other, well, hatchbacks and small cars of the last 25-30 years. I know it does a bit of a roll because there's a lot of height. The weight of the car is mostly downstairs, so it does stick to the road reasonably well. Now it really is no ball of fire. We're doing 40 miles an hour at the moment, and honestly this does feel like it's about where it's happy. I'm sure you can hustle it up to 70 miles an hour on the motorway quite easily. It feels like at the moment 40 is kind of where it's happy. In terms of economy, this with the automatic 1.3 should be getting about 37.5 mpg. A little bit better with the manual, about 40 or so with the manual in it. So You may be wondering how this car was received when new. It's not bad to drive, it's not quick by any means. I mean, it's a VVTi T-Sport. Imagine how slow it would be if it wasn't VVTi. But it's relatively comfortable, lots of space, lots of practicality, very versatile, hence the name, but a bit, well, difficult looking. Can you imagine how the press greeted it? Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, the press, well, they didn't slate it exactly, but they praised the interior and the practicality, but back then in 1999-2000, they pretty much said what I said, is like, wow, it's hard to look at, but it's a good car underneath. If you can get past the looks, it's a bit like a Fiat Multipla, but I do kind of feel like a Multipla has got, well, it's just got that sense of purpose about it, which gives it a little something more. Now, I'm not commenting much on the gearbox. You know I don't like automatics, and all I've given you is the bare facts that it's slower and less economical. And do I think that this kind of car suits an automatic? No, I don't know. I think it's so underpowered and listless that it kind of needs the manual to shove it along. Although these cars were bought extensively by old people who like to go to the garden centre, and so a lot of them were sold with autos. And as well as that, in Japan they were only available with an automatic. There was even a four-wheel drive version for the Japanese market. Now that would be a cool thing to have, because these are brilliant little camper conversions. If it's just one or two people just going for a couple of nights somewhere, so much space and headroom. This is way more room than most tents give you. Like a Berlingo, but reliable. Sorry, Hubnut. Just so many possibilities of loading up with stuff. And because there's so much legroom in the back of it and so much space, again, for wheelchairs and things, in Japan they were a very popular taxi cab. So what do you think? Am I being too harsh on the looks of the quirky little Toyota Yaris Verso? Or am I bang on saying they just made it look a bit too weird for, well, anyone really? Let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed this, please, as always, hit like and subscribe. And join me again next time driving something completely different.